what are some of the reasons why it's so important for us to get a good night's sleep?
Good question. So the benefits of sleep are countless. So there's brain health benefits. So we found out about 10 years or so ago that our brains have it's their own lymphatic system, and it's called the glymphatic system. And it's essentially when you are in deep sleep, the glymphatic system is sort of excreting the toxins, if you will, you're kind of getting like a nice brainwashing overnight when you're in deep sleep.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Becoming More Me. I'm really excited to introduce you today to Morgan Adams. Morgan is a transformative, holistic sleep coach who empowers women to conquer their battle with sleepless nights. I know about those, without reliance on sleep medications. That's awesome. With her powerful sleep toolkit, she not only ensures that women experience a profound enhancement in their sleep quality, but she also guides them in rekindling their relationship with sleep, paving the way for less stressful and more fulfilling days. Having struggled with insomnia and dependency on prescription sleeping pills for almost a decade, Morgan intimately understands the profound impact sleep has on one's quality of life. Morgan's resilience shines bright as a two-time breast cancer survivor. The experience fueled her advocacy for a lifestyle rooted in disease prevention. Her wisdom and guidance extend far beyond just sleep as she champions holistic well-being in all aspects of life, which I'm really excited to dig into and talk about. Welcome to Becoming More Me, Morgan.
Thank you, Teresa. It's so good to be here with you.
I'm glad to have you here. Can we start by just telling us a little bit about you outside of the sleep stuff and everything, but like, who are you? Where do you live? Who are the important people in your life? How do you like to spend your free time?
Yeah. So I'm in Richmond, Virginia. That's actually where I was born and raised. So I've pretty much lived in Virginia all my life. And I'm married, have two cats and two dogs, and love walking the dogs. And I have in the past had a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out. But over the past few years, I'm just really leaning into the JOMO, joy of missing out,
Yes.
really taking a slower pace of life, not being go, go, go. I really think, I consider myself sort of a reformed member of the hustle culture, you know,
Me too.
and, I think a lot of us are, and I just really like the slow pace, of life. I'm kind of a homebody. So that's kind of what I'm kind of up to these days.
That's awesome. That's so much of that resonates with me as well. So, and at what point in your life were you going through the bouts of breast cancer?
Yeah. So my first diagnosis was pretty much exactly 5 years ago.
Wow.
And then less than 3 years later, it came back in another breast. So I've had, it's the first diagnosis was a huge wake up call for me to start paying attention to my health. I was healthy on a surface level. People considered me to be, oh, she's healthy. She's doing hot yoga every day and she's eating salads. But it just, oh, there was so much I was missing with my health. And then with the second diagnosis, that was like a really huge wake up call about my life's purpose. So I got that diagnosis at 51, midlife. I feel like I'm kind of that typical midlife person who went through a challenge and then, mixed in with COVID, which I think really, helped people solidify some of their important things in their life and
Sure.
prioritize. So that was really kind of the turning point of me changing the direction of my career and doing the sleep coaching thing. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. And I think that without the breast cancer diagnosis, I do not think I'd be here doing what I'm doing today. I'd be working in a corporate job probably.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting where we
so
find our blessings and what
it,
kind of things and all those
yes,
little pivots and things. So you were
yeah,
in your late 40s when you were diagnosed the first time?
yeah, 48. Yeah,
Wow.
pretty early to be. I mean, but breast cancer unfortunately is being diagnosed much earlier in women lately. I
Yeah,
have people who I know in their 30s who've gone through breast cancer. So, it's a huge, huge issue.
absolutely. Now, did that journey intertwine with your issues sleeping?
Actually, no. So I had insomnia about 18 years ago.
Okay.
So, the insomnia had already cleared up by well before the breast cancer emerged. So, there really isn't a tie-in with, the insomnia and getting breast cancer, but there is a tie-in with the diagnosis and just my reprioritization of health.
Sure.
And I think at that point of the diagnosis, I just really had a very strong sense that I needed to do something to help women with their health. And at first, I kind of toyed around with the idea of being a breast cancer coach, but I decided that really didn't fully resonate. And in the beginning of COVID, actually, my insomnia started to kind of creep up again, not full blown, but I decided to start researching sleep. I got an Aura ring to track my sleep, and I got things kind of figured out. And I just realized, talking to other people about their sleep during this time, they were suffering as well. And it really hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, sleep is the way that you, Morgan, are going to be able to help women with their health. And so that was just like all the stars aligned, and I was just off to the races, getting training and courses and, all the education and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Do you remember what was going on in your life when the insomnia first became an issue for you?
Yeah, I do. I was going through a relationship struggle. And, when people have insomnia, I mean, so there's something called the 3P model of insomnia. I won't spend a lot of time talking about it, but essentially, a lot of people have predisposing factors, so I kind of had that teed up already. I was already a light sleeper, kind of an anxious person. So when you have these kind of like predisposing factors, then you get a precipitating factor. And that could be a relationship issue, a divorce, a death, a new baby. And so my precipitating factor was the relationship issue. And then it kind of just snowballed and to the point where, I was taking the sleeping pills, like you'd mentioned. And I regret doing that, but it's the only way I knew how to deal with it. I was at the time in pharmaceutical sales. And when I went to my doctor about this sleeping problem, he gave me an, Ambien prescription. And I thought, well, there's a pill for every ill, because I was part of that system of just, prescribe this, prescribe that. And I, had a lot of side effects. Definitely. I felt very groggy the next day. Just did not feel like I was functioning at my best.
Yeah.
But you live and learn. And yeah, I did get off the pills successfully. And that was just such a blessing to be free
Was
of
that
that.
difficult to get off of them?
It was, I had a lot of false starts, but really the kicker was when I met my husband 10 years ago. He was observing me, and he said, in a very loving way, he said, when you take that pill, you kind of act like a zombie, and it freaks me out.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to really get off the pills. So at that point, what I did was I tapered down the pills myself. And that's the correct way to do it. However, really, now that I know so much more about sleep and sleep medications, the correct way to do it is to consult with your prescribing provider, and they will give you a recommended taper schedule that you can follow. And ideally, it would be good to hook up with a sleep coach for the accountability and support. Again, back then, there was no such thing as a sleep coach, or I
sure.
didn't know of one,
Yeah, and just a little note on tapering because I mean, obviously we want to talk to our doctors. I've done an episode with Lindsay Lockett on here who we were talking about psych meds, but the amount of lack of knowledge that prescribers have about tapering is kind of astounding sometimes. So, like, there's a lot of education that needs to be improved upon there. But she actually shared
Yes.
on the episode that we did like a full, like, tapering down and like, creating like these little adjustments and things and stuff that a lot of times, a doctor will take you from a certain amount of milligrams down a milligram when we really need to like go down at a much slower pace in order to avoid different, side effects or bad reactions. So just something to
Yeah.
look into if anybody is listening to this one and is tapering their meds. There's a lot of extra information available on that other episode. And it's just, I personally have worked with in my business, if through hypnotherapy and EFT, people who have had horrible reactions and therefore lots of trauma from coming off of medications too quickly.
Oh,
And it can
yes.
be a nightmare. So
Yeah.
just taking a minute to advocate there.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, because with benzodiazepines in particular, I've learned a lot about that withdrawal, and the tapering has to be extremely slow. So good point to make, and a lot of doctors aren't well versed in the tapering. So sometimes, you have to do your own research. And then I think with that, collaborate with your doctor,
Right.
because it's just so hard to go through by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't want anybody to have a bad experience with that for sure.
Yeah.
Because a lot of
Yeah.
people end up on medications and then they realize, oh gosh, like you, like I don't really want to be on this. Like there's got to be a
Mhm.
better way kind of thing. And then either go too quickly or don't have the right kind of education and support. So
Yeah.
let's talk about some of the ways that people can improve their sleep. So
Mm.
whether you have insomnia or, I mean, I wouldn't say I have insomnia, but as I've kind of gotten into perimenopause, definitely
Mm.
notice some differences in the sleep. So what are some things that you recommend?
Yeah. So yes, I'm in perimenopause too. And
Woo!
most of my clients tend to be in that age bracket. So there are a few things. So I would say first, start with a consistent wake up time. Our bodies really love that consistency. And so we hear a lot about, have the same bedtime every night. There is some truth to that, but what we really need to focus on is that really solid wake up time, even on the weekends.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is when you're waking up at the same time every morning, it sort of sets this anchor to become sleepy around 16 hours later, because around 16 hours later is when the adenosine in your brain, your sleep chemical, is just kind of at its boiling point and it wants to be released through sleep. So that consistent wake up time is so important to healthy sleep. Another thing that I would recommend is morning sunlight or morning natural light. This has like been an incredible game changer with my clients, because I think a lot of times people who are working, they tend to just rush in the morning and just they go from like their home to their car to the office. They do not allow themselves that 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes of really just being in the direct, natural light in the morning. And so the reason why this is so important is because when the light hits your retina, it sends this signal to your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is your circadian pacemaker. And from there, there's this beautiful cascade of hormones and neurotransmitters happening. So your melatonin from the night before, it gets shut down. Your cortisol increases for more energy. Your serotonin increases for mood. And then it also prepares the melatonin for release for that following night. So if you're out, like I see this every day, if you're outside walking in the morning, about an hour after you wake up is a good time frame. People have their sunglasses on. And I just want to go up to complete strangers in my neighborhood and go, you're missing the whole thing. You're missing all these benefits because you're blocking your eyes with the sunglasses. So just, if you're going to take me up on this tip of getting outside and getting natural light within an hour, just leave your sunglasses at home, please. Please.
Are there any kind of sunglasses that are okay or any kind of lenses that allow any of that to get through for
Well,
people that have like super sensitive eyes or anything like that?
so here's the interesting thing is my eyes are very light and very sensitive to sun. And when I first started to understand about this concept, it was a little difficult at first to bear the light in my eyes, but actually you do get used to it over time. So you're not wanting to look directly in the sun.
Sure.
And then, just as a precautionary, thing is, if you're driving to work, for example, and there's a lot of glare, grab your sunglasses. You don't want to be unsafe. So yeah, I mean, I've got my sunglasses in my purse a lot of the times in case it's just like super bright and I can't see, like, we want to prioritize our safety. But what you will find is if you kind of wean yourself from sunglasses, your eyes will adapt, because it's definitely happened to me and a lot of people that I've worked with. And then I think, the third main sleep tip that I would throw out is exercise, being consistent with exercise. There's been a meta-analysis of 13 different studies showing that exercise helps with deep sleep.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting bi-directional relationship with sleep and exercise. So if you're exercising, it helps your sleep. And then if you're getting good sleep, you're going to have, better motivation to exercise the next day. You'll
Yeah.
probably perform
Also
better.
better results, better muscle recovery and all that
Yes.
kind of stuff so that
Yes.
everything kind of works together better
Yeah.
with that. So with those kind of benefits in mind, what are some of the reasons why it's so important for us to get a good night's sleep? Sounds like a
Yeah.
stupid question, I think, but I think there's reasons that people are not thinking about when they're thinking
Yeah.
about being just like well rested or something like that. And they're not thinking
Yeah.
about the deeper stuff that's actually happening when they're not getting what their body needs. And do
Yeah.
people have different needs for their sleep?
Good question. So the benefits of sleep are countless. So there's brain health benefits. So we found out about 10 years or so ago that our brains have it's their own lymphatic system, and it's called the glymphatic system. And it's essentially when you are in deep sleep, the glymphatic system is sort of excreting the toxins, if you will, you're kind of getting like a nice brainwashing overnight when you're in deep sleep. And it's helping with your heart health, your hormone balance, your emotional regulation, learning and memory. And then something that I don't think a lot of people talk about enough about is just better relationships overall. People are just flat out nicer and kinder and more generous when they've had good sleep. And there are even studies that back this up. So
I can vouch for it.
yeah, I mean, I think we all can, Teresa, because I mean, I know that on the nights that I haven't slept well, I'm just snappier to my husband. I'm not as friendly to strangers. I mean, it's just, I think we can all relate to that situation of just not being, our best selves when we're underslept.
Yeah, I know for me, like the end of the day, it's like I don't need any extra decisions to make, any extra
Yeah,
issues, any of the kids piping up with stuff. It's just like I'm kind of done, ready to sleep. And I can be the
right.
same way if I don't get like my afternoon, either like meditation or I'll lay down and do like hypnotherapy or something in the middle of the afternoon. And I get kind of grumpy if I don't get that.
Yeah, yeah. You're not alone, sister.
Do you find that things like napping or doing meditation or hypnosis harm or help with things with sleep?
Yeah, so there's been some good data about the benefits of naps. So a lot of people will take like a 15, 20 minute, no longer than 30-minute nap in the afternoon, just as a cognitive boost, a mood boost. I think it's a great practice, but you want to be careful about your timing of your nap. So what I coach my clients to do is to have their nap, before 3 o'clock, right? Because if you're napping too late, it's just going to kind of eat into your sleep drive. It's kind of like snacking before dinner. So
Sure.
if you're napping at like 6, 7 p.m., you're not going to become as sleepy at your normal bedtime. So there's a timing issue with naps, but I think naps are a great practice. If you're the kind of person who is just you're not able to function without a nap, I think there's a deeper issue that needs to be addressed.
Sure.
Perhaps your sleep quality is not good. Maybe there's a sleep apnea issue that needs to get checked out. I think meditation is awesome for, just, I mean, the benefits are countless of meditation. And I try to encourage my clients to do some kind of meditation practice, whether it's, I think it's great to do in the morning and daytime, because sometimes people with insomnia will put a lot of pressure on themselves to like I must meditate at night, and it doesn't end up relaxing them because they're putting too much pressure on the meditation to help them sleep. So
Yeah.
what I really try to focus in on is let's just make meditation sort of like mini breaks throughout the day so that you kind of become familiar with doing it. And by the time night rolls around, it's not this like big performative endeavor.
Absolutely. I used to have a real love-hate relationship with meditation. And when I was going through my worst bout with sleep, which was during my pregnancy with my fourth child and the early months after he arrived, I discovered yoga nidra meditations.
Mm,
And those were so perfect for me because I could do one in the afternoon. Like when he wanted to nurse or whatever, we could just like snuggle up. I could like put on my headphones. And for 20 minutes, I got benefits that were like getting 4 hours of sleep. And I swear that carried me through those months until I could figure out and balance and actually be able to sleep, and have a child that slept through the night and all that kind of stuff. That was a huge difference maker for me.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, yoga nidra has been a game changer for a lot of people who are like, new moms or just sleep deprived for whatever reason, just on a short-term basis, it's a great way to kind of get some rejuvenation, in a short period of time. So I am all for yoga nidra.
Yeah. So, how do you define insomnia?
Yeah. So the technical definition is trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking up too early, at least 3 days a week. And so we've got acute insomnia, which is 3 months or less, and then chronic insomnia is 3 months or more. So, and then on top of that, I need to add that there needs to be some kind of just daytime dysfunction or dissatisfaction. So in some ways, there's a very specific black and white definition, but in other situations, it's a little bit more subjective, because you could technically have somebody who is having trouble falling asleep every night, or several nights a week, but they're not bothered by it at all. It doesn't bother them at all. They're functioning great. They technically really wouldn't have insomnia. So it's kind of like a self-report type of situation.
How you feel
And
about it?
yeah, it's how you feel about it. And there are a lot of people out there who are dealing with insomnia. I saw this amazing documentary called The Quest for Sleep, and it really helped me understand that a lot of people are ashamed of having insomnia and don't talk about it. So when we hear that the rates of insomnia are about 10 to 20% of the population, I sometimes wonder if it's larger than that because of underreporting. People are ashamed. People are like, there's no reason why I should be having trouble sleeping. I shouldn't admit this to people.
Well, I think a lot of people also think it's a much like a more extreme diagnosis, perhaps, and they think that
Yeah,
just their difficulty sleeping or staying asleep or what have you maybe doesn't qualify them for insomnia.
right.
You know,
Yes.
and that maybe
Yes.
insomnia is just for people that literally aren't falling asleep at all at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not the case.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, I know for me, when I have issues with sleep from time to time now, it's usually I don't have an issue falling asleep. It's more like the staying asleep. And feeling like I tend to feel pretty well rested after 5 or 6 hours. But I also go to bed early. I wake up early also. I normally get up at like right around 4:30, give or take 20 minutes, depending on the day of the week. So a pretty steady wake up time and pretty steady on the going to sleep side. But it seems like somewhere between 1 and 3 a.m., my body is like, all right, cool, let's get up.
Yeah.
So, why does that happen? And is there anything? And I can normally go back to sleep, but if my mind gets active or I'm feeling anxious or I've become a little dysregulated or whatever, then I can often find myself just either being like, screw it, I'm just going to get up, or not being able to go to sleep and being more in my head.
Yeah. Your situation is incredibly common, especially with perimenopausal women.
Yep.
But I just do want to acknowledge that waking up during the night is normal. So healthy adults will wake up probably a dozen times. Most of the time, we don't even realize it
Sure.
because the
I mean,
sleep.
after having 4 kids, the going to the bathroom break in the middle of the night is
Yeah.
non-negotiable. So I
Yeah.
know that I'm going to get up once and do that in the
Yeah.
middle of the night, and then I'm going to
Yeah.
normally go right back to sleep. But it is during that time frame.
Yeah. So just want to normalize that it's very normal. And, you know, I think the problem is when we become anxious about waking up. That's really when the problems happen. And what's interesting is that when we wake up in the middle of the night, our brains are not operating from our rational center. So we are somewhat operating out of an irrational place just by our brain's wiring. So we tend to have like probably the worst thoughts that we have. We don't have a lot of those negative thoughts during the day. And there's so many different reasons why we could be waking up. I mean, I'll just throw a few out there. Sometimes it's because our blood sugar has tanked and we get like this kind of cortisol spike and that wakes us up. There's also, with women who are in their menopausal years, the increase in sleep apnea. So sometimes if people are repeatedly waking up several times during the night, sometimes I'll have them screen for sleep apnea, because to me, that's like kind of a telltale if you're just constantly waking up. We also can get overheated at night, and that's another cause of our wake ups. So they're just a lot. they're a lot to contend with. And my heart goes out to all the people out there who are, struggling with those wake ups, because they can be frustrating. But just, if we can get to the point where we are like not tossing and turning. So like if you're in a situation where you wake up and you're like, oh, that switch goes off in your brain of like, am I ever going to fall asleep? Really, the best thing to do is just not lie there in bed tossing and turning, and getting out of bed, going to another room and doing something relaxing in dim light until you become sleepy again. Because what you don't want to do is pair your bed with anxiety.
Yeah.
This is coming from CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. So that's one of my recommendations for people who are lying there just kind of in agony over the wake ups. Don't suffer in bed is what I tell people.
Absolutely. That's a great tip and very important. And why is it that women tend to have more of an issue with this than men who seem to be able to
Yes.
just like, snore their way through the night?
Yeah. So unfortunately, we as women have about 40 to 50% more chance of having insomnia. And they did a study 2021 saying that women are 1.5 times more likely than men to say that they wake up never or rarely feeling rested. So we are definitely at a disadvantage with sleep. And there are really three main reasons. One is hormones, from teenagerhood to menopause, our hormones are in flux. And then second is women are more prone to mood disorders like anxiety and depression, and those make you more vulnerable to sleep issues. And then, the third main reason is sociocultural. So what I mean by that is women are carrying so many roles, and let's just take a perimenopausal woman who is like, 45, 50. She may still have kids at home that she's taking care of. She could potentially have aging parents that she's responsible for taking care of. And then on top of that, she could be running her own business or be in a managerial role at work. So there's so many competing demands. I call these, it's sort of like the sandwich generation.
Yeah,
And with that, you're just dealing with a lot of anxieties and worries.
absolutely. Man, we have a lot to go up against to be able to get a good night's sleep,
Yes.
huh?
Yes. The odds are not stacked against us for us, but there are definitely, those things that we just talked about earlier that can help. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I was having a lot of fun going through your website,
oh.
morganadamswellness.com. And I'm a total like tech junkie and I love products. I noticed like you're wearing the Apollo Neuro right now. What are some of your favorite sleep products as far as like things that can support through this?
Yeah. So, my favorite one right now is Eight Sleep. It's a cooling
That's the
mattress
one I wanted
pad.
to ask you about.
And oh my God, it
Oh
is,
my gosh, I keep hearing about it and I keep researching it and I was like, I think this is our next mattress, babe.
it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Do you have
feel
the
like,
mattress and the cover, or tell us a little about what it is in case people don't know what it is? I know what it is.
so
So,
you can buy the mattress, but we just have the cover.
okay.
Um, so it's almost like it kind of goes over your bed like a fitted sheet,
Hmm.
right? And what's really cool about it is there's so much latitude with the temperature. So you can make it like 55 degrees all the way up to like really hot, almost like a heating pad. So you can set the temperature throughout the night for your own preferences. So, for example, I like to sleep when it's like, and I like to get in the bed when it's kind of cold, right? And then I set it to warm me up in the morning. So it serves as my alarm clock too. So instead of waking up to an alarm clock, I just wake up to this like gentle, warm hug from my, mattress pad. It's really awesome. And then if you have a bed partner, you can control both sides. So each person has their own app that they can, do the controls for the temperature so that everyone's happy in the house.
That's
Everyone,
cool. Does it learn anything about you or does it report back anything?
well, it does. So it's got a sleep tracking component to it as well. So, it's interesting because I've matched up the Eight Sleep data against my Aura Ring, and it's actually fairly similar. I mean, it's not wildly different at all.
Yeah.
So I feel like, that speaks to its accuracy, because Aura is fairly accurate as far as, sleep tracker is concerned. And what it also does is it has this thing called autopilot. So it almost kind of, it takes the temperature of your environment into account and will adjust accordingly during the night. So like it'll adjust like 18 times during the night. So,
Oh,
and
wow.
they have shown that it does, you know, from a objective status, help your sleep and actually help your recovery. So they've got some good data behind it. So I feel like it's definitely, you know, it's an investment, but I feel like you're spending a third of your life
And a
asleep.
lot of time in our beds.
You know, I feel like if we're spending that much time, we might as well be as comfortable as possible and, you know, set ourselves up for the best outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's on our very near future purchases list. So I've just been geeking out on it lately. So I was really excited when I saw it on there. I was like, I'm going to ask Morgan about 8 sleep because it looks just so cool and I've only heard good things. Any other favorite products or things that you feel like are really valuable to people that are wanting to sleep better?
Well, the Aura Ring can be helpful, the sleep tracker. I think it can be a good way for people to optimize their sleep and improve things that maybe, you know, need some improvement.
Yeah. Can you
If
mention how that works? I mean, as far as like, how does that help people improve? How does that
Yeah,
data, how do you use that data?
yeah. So I think a good, like, I'll use myself as an example. So over the 3 years that I've been using it, I've been kind of on this journey of, you know, slowly like decreasing my alcohol use, right? And I've done lots of experiments where I can see clearly that if I have like more than 2 drinks after a certain time, it's all bets are off. Like my sleep
So I
scores are
sleep
awful.
horribly if I drink.
Yeah.
I
That's like
pretty
a
much don't.
whole,
I
yeah.
mean,
I mean,
more than 1 or 2 drinks, like, almost never anymore because the sleep
yeah.
is so
It,
drastically affected
yeah.
that it's just not even
Yeah.
worth it.
I know. Well, they found that like over a drink for women and reduces sleep quality by up to like 38%.
I
So
believe it.
that's a lot of us. And as we get older, it just affects us worse. We can't process it. So that's an example of looking at a behavior and then modifying it because you're seeing these results. I hate seeing like these results in the morning. So, you know, the next weekend, I'm like, oh, remember those terrible results? And not, it's not only the results, but like you don't feel as sharp, you don't feel as motivated or as chipper, you know. So um, and again, you know, there's another experiment is eating late. What you'll see quite often is if you eat a late meal or a heavy meal, you'll see your readiness score go down and your sleep score go down. So if you're that kind of person that can look at data and make changes from the data, Aura is great for you. The people that I really kind of worry about with using sleep trackers are people who have insomnia, where the insomnia is has a very anxious feel to it. I spoke to a woman yesterday who I think is going to start working with me. She was saying that, you know, she's been using the Aura lately, but because of her insomnia, like she's looking at all these minute details about her REM sleep and she's like getting worried about it. And I was like, look, it's probably time to like take a little breather from the Aura ring. So you have to kind of gauge if and understand yourself, like, is this device creating more anxiety about my sleep? It
Right.
can be real honest with yourself. And if it is, take a pause, you know, take a month off, or maybe wear the ring, but only check in on your scores once a week so
Yes.
that you're just kind of having a little bit of distance from it. You're not so much like wrapped up in the everyday.
Everything is data, even the way that we feel about the data. So that's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I really, as much as I like gadgets and stuff, I don't overly rely on too much tech because, and I don't want to like spend a whole lot of time like talking about the tech because
Sure.
I want people to really understand that we have so many capabilities of improving our sleep just
Everything we
with,
need is already inside of ourselves,
yeah, just,
essentially.
I mean, just the example I gave is just looking at the natural daylight in the morning. Wow, that's like completely like recalibrating your circadian rhythm. You didn't have to spend a dime, you know. So I really want people to take away from this is that we have the tools. Sometimes the tool, like the free tools, aren't the sexy tools. Like 8 sleep is sexy, you know, like it's like so high tech, but you know, that's next level. Like if you're gonna mess with the tech stuff, I think the thing that you need to focus on first before you go to the high end tech is the basics,
Basics,
is
yeah.
just the real basics that are free. And then once you've kind of mastered the basics and you're ready for the next level, then maybe, you know, invest in the
Yeah.
8 sleep or the fancier things.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Appreciate that. So, how do you work with people and where can people find you?
Yes. So I work with people in a one-to-one coaching container where there's lots of support, a lot of accountability. Um, People can find me. Oh, and I also have a free mini course that I forgot to
Oh,
mention where
awesome.
people can just, learn more about morning and evening routines and how those set you up for a better night of sleep. And I also offer a sleep clarity call, which is a free 20-minute call where you're able to share with me your sleep challenge, and I'm able to offer you a couple of possible solutions to resolve it. And you can find all of that on my website, morganadamswellness.com. I'm also really active on Instagram. My handle is morganadams.wellness. And I welcome anyone to just DM me about sleep. I love to chat about it. So don't be shy.
Absolutely. Well, you've got a lot of wonderful tips and resources. I'm going to make sure all of that is in the show notes in case anyone is listening to this on the fly. And I'm just so grateful that you came to share all this wisdom with us today, Morgan.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Yeah. Are there any last thoughts that you want to share about sleep or anything else that you think people should know?
Well, I just think really just to drive home the point is rely first on those free tools that we all have at our disposal before jumping into like all the fancy stuff. I think I just,
Yeah,
nice words to leave you on.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to everyone for listening. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.